Hello, friends. This is the video on your study guide for both levels. Even though it says on level, it is for both levels. Okay, so we're going to start with this first question. So these are using this table of information and doing some comparison statements. So the ratio of Mrs. Smith, so Mrs. Smith's gold medals, so 28. The ratio of Mrs. Smith's gold medals to Mrs. Davidson's gold medals was 28 to 14. Now, if I look at this, I know that this is actually twice as big as this, so I could also reduce this to 2 to 1. Mrs. Hernandez, remember this is the one we changed to Mr. Chow. Mrs. Hernandez has about blank times as many total medals as Mr. Chow, so we're looking at total medals. Mrs. Hernandez had 51. Mr. Chow had 62. So in this situation, she had about this much, 51 to his 62. That's kind of a confusing question, guys. That's kind of a weird one. Okay. What percent of Mrs. Hernandez's total medals were gold? So Mrs. Hernandez had 13 out of 51 total medals.
Morgan Hadley to the office. Morgan Hadley to the office, please.
Sorry about that. When we look at this, you guys remember the way to find a percent? Numerator divided by denominator, so 0.25. So Mrs. Hernandez, about 25% of her total medals were gold. All right, next set of questions. There are 48 pretzels in a 16-ounce bag of chocolate-covered pretzels. Write and solve a proportion that you can use to find the number of pretzels in an 8-ounce bag. So our units are pretzels and bag. Not bags, because it's not the number of bags, it's ounces. Okay, so we're writing a proportion. There are 48 pretzels in a 16-ounce bag, and we want to know how many pretzels are in an 8-ounce bag. So you guys know 48 times 8, which gives me 384. And then I divide by my loaner, which gives me 24. So X equals 24 pretzels. Okay, now this is a unit rate question. What is the number of pretzels per ounce? So remember, we divide it like we say it. So pretzels per ounce. So 48 divided by 16 gives me 3, and I don't just leave it, I label it. Pretzels per ounce. Now, question C might be a little bit confusing because it asks how many ounces each pretzel weighs. That just means ounces per pretzel. So instead of doing pretzels per ounce, we're going to do ounces per pretzel, because remember, we divide it like we say it. So 16 divided by 48 is 0.33 repeating, which we know that equals a third. So 1/3 ounce per pretzel. All right. Page 2. Student's store sells pencils at 5 for $1.25. So we got to complete the rate table. So we want to know the price per pencil. So 1.25 divided by 5 means 1 pencil's 25 cents. 2 pencils are 50 cents. 3 pencils are 75 cents. 4 pencils are $1. 10 pencils would be $2.50, which we could have also doubled this. 15 pencils, $3.75. 20 pencils, $5. And 100 pencils, $25. All right, how many pencils could you buy for $20? So now we want to know how many pencils we could buy for $20. So 20 divided by the price of 1 pencil. So 20 divided by 0.25 gives me 80. So I could buy 80, and I'm not walking away from it like this. I got to label it. 80 pencils. What would this graph of data look like? Well, we have a constant rate of change, so we would have a straight line, right? This is what my graph would look like. And a point on the line, if I wanted to graph these guys, these are all points. So I could have answered 1.25. I could have answered 2.50. I could have answered 15, 3.75. Any of these, this is your first one, this is your x, and this is your y. Write an equation that relates the number of pencils and the cost. So my total cost is going to be the unit rate, which is 0.25, times the number of pencils. Constant of proportionality, well, we know that that's the rate of change. That's what we're going up by. So the constant of proportionality is 0.25 because that's the unit rate. All right, last question on this page. Many U.S. employees received a 4% raise in 2012. So 4% looks like a proportion problem. Suppose an employee made $87,000 in 2011 and received a 4% raise. What did she make in 2012? Well, we could do, we're going to use a proportion. She made $87,000, and we want to know what's 4% of that. So multiply the partners. 87,000 times 4 equals 348,000 divided by 100 equals 3480. Now this is the amount of the raise. So we want to know, what did she make the next year with the raise included? So now we're going to go 87,000 plus 3,480, and that gives me 90,480. Now the other way that we could have done this is we could have thought about, well, she's going to make 100% of this plus an additional 4%. So we could have done 87,000, and we want to find out 104% of that. Because we kind of, back here, we added the 4% in after we found the proportion. Here, we're adding the 4% in before we find it. So multiply the partners. So 87,000 times 104 gives me 9,048,000. And then I want to divide that by the loaner. And that gives me the same exact answer I got. Last page. Okay, so now we've got Joe and his room. So we've got the blue paint problem. So we want to know which plan will give him the paint that is the least blue. So we want it to be not quite as blue. So plan A, I'm going to go like this to kind of divide my space. Plan A uses 3 parts white and 2 parts blue. So this is like an orange juice problem, guys. So 2 parts are blue out of the total 5 parts. So this is white, this is blue, and this is total parts in the mixture. So if I want to find that amount, remember, I like to do this as a decimal instead. That means 0.4 of the mixture is blue. Now with plan B, here, part of total that is blue. So I'm explaining, part of the question said explain what the numbers mean. This is how much blue, this is the total, because this is the blue and white together. When I divided, this is the part that is blue. So now for mixture B, we've got 3 parts blue, and then 3 parts blue, 4 parts white gives me 7 parts total. So now I'm going to do the same thing, 3 divided by 7, and I'm going to get 0.4285, blah, blah, blah. So this means that this portion of the total